Sands of Time, the Chronicles of Ancient Egypt. Chapter 1. The Dawn of Civilization. The story of ancient Egypt begins around 3100 BC, when Upper and Lower Egypt were unified under the rule of the first pharaoh, Narmer. This momentous event marked the beginning of the early dynastic period, during which the foundations for the civilization's development were established. The Nile River, flowing from the highlands of East Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, played a pivotal role in the emergence of ancient Egypt. This life-giving river provided a stable source of water, fertile land, and natural barriers for protection. The Nile's annual floods deposited rich silt on the riverbanks, creating fertile soil for agriculture. This allowed ancient Egyptians to cultivate crops such as wheat, barley, and flax, and rear livestock, sustaining a growing population and fostering the growth of settlements. Settlements along the Nile gradually evolved into larger cities, which became the centers of culture, religion, and administration. Some of the earliest cities included Hierakonpolis, Abydos, and Memphis. Hierakonpolis, in Upper Egypt, is believed to have been the seat of power for Narmer, while Abydos was the site of important religious rituals and burial grounds for Egypt's earliest rulers. Memphis, situated at the apex of the Nile Delta, would later become the capital of ancient Egypt during the Old Kingdom. Egypt's early rulers established a complex social hierarchy, with the pharaoh at the top, followed by priests, nobles, soldiers, scribes, merchants, and farmers. The pharaoh was believed to be a living god, a divine ruler who maintained the balance between the forces of chaos and order. Ancient Egyptians also believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses who governed various aspects of the natural world and human life. The ancient Egyptians used hieroglyphs, a system of pictorial writing, to record their history, religious beliefs, and daily activities. They also developed the skills necessary for monumental architecture, such as cutting and transporting massive stone blocks, as well as advanced mathematics and astronomy. This knowledge laid the groundwork for the construction of the pyramids, temples, and tombs that would come to symbolize ancient Egypt's greatness. The unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under Narmer also set the stage for the development of a centralized government, which would evolve over time to administer the growing civilization. A complex bureaucracy was formed to manage various aspects of society, from agriculture and trade to taxation and law enforcement. The early dynastic period saw the establishment of many of the cultural, religious, and political institutions that would come to define ancient Egypt. As the civilization entered the Old Kingdom, these foundations would be built upon to create the grand structures, art, and literature that still captivate the world today. Chapter 2. The Age of Pyramids. The Old Kingdom, 2686 to 2181 BC, represents the golden age of ancient Egypt, particularly in terms of monumental architecture. During this period, pharaohs commissioned the construction of massive stone pyramids as their eternal resting places, exemplifying the Egyptians' architectural prowess and their beliefs in the afterlife. These iconic structures, which still stand today, serve as a testament to the civilization's ingenuity and ambition. The construction of the Step Pyramid of Djoser, designed by the architect Imhotep, marked the beginning of the pyramid-building era. Located at Saqqara, the Step Pyramid was a revolutionary design, featuring 6 mastabas, rectangular tombs stacked on top of each other in diminishing sizes. This innovative structure became a precursor to the true pyramids that would follow. During the Fourth Dynasty, the Great Pyramids of Giza were built for the pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. These colossal monuments are the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian pyramid construction and remain among the most recognizable landmarks in the world. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, also known as the Pyramid of Cheops, is the largest of the 3, originally standing at 146.6 meters, 481 feet tall. Built with approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, the pyramid's construction remains an engineering marvel. Recent discoveries suggest that a system of ramps and canals was used to transport and lift the massive stones into place. The Pyramid of Khafre, the second largest at Giza, was built for Khufu's son, Khafre. Although slightly smaller than the Great Pyramid, it appears taller due to its elevated position on the plateau. The Sphinx, a monumental statue with the body of a lion and the head of a human, is believed to represent Khafre and stands guard over his pyramid complex. Menkaura's pyramid, the smallest of the Giza pyramids, was built for the pharaoh Menkaure. Although more modest in size, it features a unique casing of granite on its lower portion, showcasing the craftsmanship and attention to detail that characterized the Old Kingdom. The pyramids were not solely intended as tombs, they were also centers of religious and economic activity. Each pyramid complex included a mortuary temple, where priests performed rituals for the deceased pharaoh, and a valley temple, where offerings were made. Additionally, the pyramids were surrounded by large necropolises, or cities of the dead, where the pharaoh's family, officials, and other elites were buried in elaborate mastabas. The labor force required to build these massive monuments was enormous, with thousands of skilled workers and laborers employed for decades. Contrary to popular belief, the majority of the workers were not slaves, but rather peasants who were conscripted to work on the pyramids during the agricultural off-season. As the Old Kingdom progressed, the construction of pyramids continued, albeit on a smaller scale, reflecting a shift in resources and focus. Despite the decline in their construction, the legacy of the pyramids continued to shape the architectural and religious landscape of ancient Egypt for centuries to come. Chapter 3. The First Intermediate Period. The First Intermediate Period, 2181 to 2055 BC, was marked by political instability, social upheaval, and a breakdown of central authority. During this tumultuous time, regional leaders, known as nomarchs, vied for power, resulting in a series of internal conflicts and the fragmentation of Egypt into competing factions. While this period is often characterized by chaos and decline, it was also a time of cultural adaptation and innovation. The decline of the Old Kingdom can be attributed to several factors, including the depletion of resources due to the construction of massive pyramids, a growing population that strained agricultural production, and a series of low Nile floods that led to famine and unrest. As the central government weakened, the nomarchs became more powerful, expanding their influence and territories. The First Intermediate Period saw the rise of two competing power centers, Heracleopolis in the north and Thebes in the south. These two regional capitals were ruled by separate dynasties, the 9 The and 10 The in Heracleopolis and the 11 Thebes. The rulers of Heracleopolis, known as the Heracleopolitan kings, initially dominated Lower Egypt and parts of Upper Egypt, while the Theban rulers controlled the southernmost regions. Despite the political chaos, the First Intermediate Period was a time of cultural development and artistic innovation. The decline of the centralized government allowed for the emergence of new artistic styles and themes, as local workshops and artists sought patronage from the increasingly powerful nomarchs. The rigid artistic conventions of the Old Kingdom were replaced by more expressive and diverse styles, reflecting the unique tastes and preferences of the individual patrons. During this time, literary works flourished as well, with texts such as the instruction of King Merekere and the teachings of Tita-Hotep reflecting the wisdom and experiences of the era. These didactic texts offered practical advice on leadership, morality, and social conduct, demonstrating the importance of personal virtue in the face of political instability. The First Intermediate Period also saw significant advancements in Egyptian burial practices. Tombs became more elaborate, with intricate reliefs, inscriptions, and paintings depicting the daily lives of the deceased. The use of coffins and the development of the coffin texts, a collection of spells and rituals designed to ensure the deceased's safe passage to the afterlife, became more widespread. As the First Intermediate Period drew to a close, a series of conflicts erupted between the Heracleopolitan kings and the Theban rulers. The Theban ruler, Mentuhotep, IEI, eventually emerged victorious, defeating the Heracleopolitan kings and reuniting Egypt under a single rule. Mentuhotep, IE's reign marked the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, a period of renewed political stability and cultural renaissance in ancient Egypt. Chapter 4: The Middle Kingdom Renaissance. The Middle Kingdom, 2055 to 1650 BC, marked a period of political stability, economic prosperity, and cultural revival in ancient Egypt. Under the rule of powerful pharaohs such as Senusret I, and Amenemhet II, the Middle Kingdom thrived, becoming a center of art, literature, and monumental architecture. This Renaissance was characterized by innovations in various fields, the expansion of trade networks, and the construction of impressive temples and fortresses. Following the reunification of Egypt under Mentuhotep, Ia the 11th The, and 12 the dynasties ruled from their capital in Thebes. The early Middle Kingdom saw the establishment of a centralized administration with a more efficient bureaucracy, which helped to manage the vast territories of the Egyptian state. This allowed the pharaohs to maintain control over the nomarchs, preventing a recurrence of the power struggles that had characterized the First Intermediate Period. During the Middle Kingdom, Egypt's rulers embarked on extensive building projects, with many of the era's most significant monuments constructed under Senusret I and Senusret II. The Temple of Karnak, dedicated to the god Amun-Ra, was significantly expanded during this period. The Labyrinth, a massive temple complex built by Amenemhat II, was described by the ancient Greek historian Herodotus as surpassing even the pyramids in its grandeur. One of the most notable architectural achievements of the Middle Kingdom was the construction of the Fortress of Buhen, located in Nubia. This massive structure, with its thick walls and imposing towers, served to protect Egypt's southern border and control trade along the Nile. The Fortress of Buhen is a testament to the military prowess and strategic vision of the Middle Kingdom pharaohs. The Middle Kingdom also saw an expansion of trade networks, with expeditions to the land of Punt, which brought valuable goods such as gold, ebony, ivory, and exotic animals. Trade with the Levant, Cyprus, and Crete introduced new technologies and ideas, enriching Egyptian culture and society. Art and literature flourished during the Middle Kingdom, with new forms and styles emerging. The block statue, a type of sculpture depicting a seated individual with their knees drawn up, became a popular form of artistic expression. The Middle Kingdom also saw the production of some of the finest examples of Egyptian jewelry, crafted from gold, silver, and semi-precious stones. Literature experienced a renaissance as well, with works like the Tale of Sinuhe and the Story of the Shipwrecked Sailor reflecting the period's diverse literary traditions. The Middle Kingdom also saw the development of new funerary texts, known as the Book of the Dead, which provided instructions and spells for the deceased to navigate the afterlife successfully. The end of the Middle Kingdom was marked by a decline in central authority and a weakening of the Egyptian state. This led to the Second Intermediate Period, a time of renewed political fragmentation and foreign invasions. However, the cultural achievements and architectural innovations of the Middle Kingdom would leave a lasting legacy, influencing the development of ancient Egypt for generations to come. Chapter 5: The Second Intermediate Period. The Second Intermediate Period, 1650 to 1550 BC, was another era of political fragmentation and turmoil in ancient Egypt. It was characterized by the decline of the Middle Kingdom, the rise of the 13 to 17 dynasties, and the invasion of the Hyksos, a foreign group of Semitic origin. Despite the challenges of this period, it played a significant role in shaping Egypt's history and contributed to the rise of the New Kingdom. The decline of the Middle Kingdom can be attributed to various factors, including a series of weak rulers, internal strife, and economic difficulties. The 13th dynasty, which emerged in the latter part of the Middle Kingdom, was plagued by a rapid succession of short-lived pharaohs. As central authority weakened, the country once again fragmented into separate regions ruled by local dynasties, including the 14th dynasty in the Nile Delta and the 16th and 17th dynasties in Bs. During this time, the Hyksos, a group of foreign settlers from Western Asia, took advantage of Egypt's weakened state to establish themselves in the northern regions. They founded the 15th dynasty and established their capital at Avaris in the eastern Nile Delta. The Hyksos were skilled warriors and introduced new military technologies to Egypt, including the horse-drawn chariot, composite bow, and improved bronze weaponry. Although the Hyksos have often been portrayed as ruthless invaders, their rule over northern Egypt was marked by a period of cultural exchange and adaptation. They adopted many aspects of Egyptian culture, religion, and art, while also introducing their own practices and technologies. This blending of cultures contributed to the development of new artistic styles and innovations, such as the elaboration of faience, a type of glazed ceramic, and the creation of intricate jewelry designs. In the south, the Theban rulers of the 16th and 17th dynasties struggled to maintain their independence from the Hyksos. This period saw the rise of powerful Theban rulers such as Seqen and Retau and Kamosi, who began to challenge the Hyksos rule. These conflicts ultimately culminated in the expulsion of the Hyksos under the leadership of Ahmose I.e., the founder of the 18th dynasty and the New Kingdom. The second intermediate period was a time of profound change in ancient Egypt, as the country experienced political fragmentation, foreign invasion, and cultural exchange. While it was a challenging era, it also laid the groundwork for the rise of the New Kingdom, a period of unparalleled power and prosperity that would see Egypt emerge as one of the world's greatest empires. Chapter 6. The Rise of the New Kingdom. The New Kingdom, 1550 to 1070 B.C., marked the zenith of ancient Egypt's power and influence, as the country emerged as a dominant force in the ancient world. The 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties comprised this period, with legendary pharaohs such as Hatshepsut, Thutmose II Akhenaten, Tutankhamun II, and Ramesses III ruling during these dynasties. The New Kingdom was characterized by vast territorial expansion, monumental architecture, and a flourishing of arts and culture. The rise of the New Kingdom began with the expulsion of the Hyksos by Ahmose I, who consolidated power and re-established central authority. His successors, including Amenhotep I and Thutmose I.e., continued to strengthen Egypt's position, expanding its borders and establishing a vast empire that stretched from Nubia in the south to the Euphrates River in the north. The reign of Queen Hatshepsut, one of ancient Egypt's few female pharaohs, was a period of relative peace and prosperity. Hatshepsut focused on trade and diplomacy, sending expeditions to the land of Punt, which returned with valuable resources such as myrrh, frankincense, and exotic animals. She also embarked on an extensive building program, including the construction of her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, an architectural masterpiece that still stands today. Thutmose I Hatshepsut's stepson was a highly successful military leader, leading campaigns that further expanded Egypt's empire. Under his rule, Egypt reached its greatest territorial extent and became a leading power in the ancient world. Thutmose I was also a prolific builder, commissioning numerous temples, obelisks, and other monuments throughout Egypt. The reign of Akhenaten, originally named Amenhotep IV, marked a radical departure from traditional Egyptian religion and culture. Akhenaten introduced the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, as the supreme deity, and suppressed the traditional pantheon of gods. He also relocated the capital from Thebes to a new city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, and promoted a new, more naturalistic style of art. After Akhenaten's death, his successors, including the famous boy king Tutankhamun, restored the traditional religious practices and returned the capital to Thebes. The 19th dynasty saw the reign of Ramesses I, often regarded as the greatest and most powerful pharaoh in ancient Egypt's history. Known as Ramesses the Great, He ruled for 66 years and embarked on ambitious building projects, including the construction of the Ramesseum and the temples at Abu Simbel. Ramesses I.E. is also known for his military campaigns, notably the Battle of Kadesh against the Hittites, which resulted in a peace treaty that ushered in a period of stability and cooperation between the two powers. The 20th Theed dynasty, which included the rule of Ramesses I was the last of the New Kingdom. Ramesses I successfully repelled invasions from the Sea Peoples and Libyans, but his reign also saw the decline of Egypt's political and economic power. As the New Kingdom drew to a close, the country experienced internal strife, corruption, and a series of weak rulers, ultimately leading to the Third Intermediate Period and the fragmentation of Egypt once again. The New Kingdom was a time of unparalleled power and prosperity for ancient Egypt, as the country exerted its influence across the known world. The legacies of this period, including its monumental architecture, art, and enduring stories of its legendary pharaohs, continue to captivate the imagination and inspire awe in the modern world. The achievements of the New Kingdom, from its vast territorial expansion to its cultural and artistic innovations, have left an indelible mark on human history, ensuring that the splendor and grandeur of ancient Egypt continue to captivate and inspire generations to come. Chapter 7. The Reign of Akhenaten. The reign of Akhenaten, 1353–1336 BC1, of ancient Egypt's most enigmatic and controversial pharaohs, represented a significant departure from traditional Egyptian religion, art, and politics. As the son of Amenhotep I.E., Akhenaten ascended to the throne during the 18th Theed dynasty, a time of unparalleled power and prosperity for Egypt. However, his revolutionary religious reforms and the establishment of a new capital at Amarna would send shockwaves throughout the kingdom, leaving a lasting impact on ancient Egyptian history. Early in his reign, Akhenaten, initially known as Amenhotep IV, began to promote the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, as the supreme deity. This marked a drastic shift from the traditional polytheistic religion, which centered around the worship of a vast pantheon of gods, with Amun-Ra, the god of Thebes, holding a preeminent position. Akhenaten's religious revolution aimed to dismantle the power of the Amun priesthood, which had amassed significant wealth and influence during the New Kingdom. In the 5th year of his reign, Akhenaten made the bold decision to abandon Thebes and establish a new capital city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, dedicated to the worship of the Aten. The construction of this city in the desert along the banks of the Nile was an immense undertaking, involving the mobilization of vast resources and labor. Akhetaten was designed to reflect the ideals of the new religion, with temples open to the sunlight and a grand royal palace at its heart. The worship of the Aten was exclusive, and Akhenaten made efforts to suppress the traditional pantheon of gods, closing their temples and redirecting resources to the cult of the Aten. This suppression, along with the move to Amarna, alienated much of the population and eroded the support of the powerful priesthoods. Akhenaten's reign also saw a revolution in art and culture, with a new, more naturalistic style emerging. This Amarna style represented a departure from the idealized, rigid forms of the traditional Egyptian art. Depictions of Akhenaten and his family, including his famous wife Nefertiti, often portrayed them in more intimate, humanizing scenes, with elongated and exaggerated features. The Amarna period was marked by diplomatic correspondence with other major powers, as evidenced by the Amarna letters, a collection of clay tablets discovered in the ruins of Akhetaten. These letters provide valuable insights into the political landscape of the ancient Near East during Akhenaten's reign, revealing a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and diplomatic exchanges. The reign of Akhenaten came to an abrupt end in 1336 BC under uncertain circumstances. The precise cause of his death remains a mystery, but it is widely believed that his religious and political reforms had generated significant opposition. After his death, the traditional religion was restored, and the capital was moved back to Thebes. The memory of Akhenaten and his revolutionary ideas was actively suppressed, with many of his monuments dismantled or defaced. Despite the efforts to erase his legacy, the reign of Akhenaten continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts alike. His religious and cultural revolution, while short-lived, left an indelible mark on the history of ancient Egypt, challenging the very foundations of a civilization that had endured for millennia. The story of Akhenaten serves as a powerful reminder of the capacity for innovation and change, even in the most ancient and established societies. Chapter 8. The Boy King Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun, 1332–1323 BC, also known as the Boy King, ascended to the throne of Egypt at the tender age of 9 or 10, following the tumultuous reign of Akhenaten. As one of the most famous pharaohs in history, Tutankhamun's short reign was marked by the restoration of traditional religion, the return to Thebes, and a reversal of many of his predecessors' radical policies. His legacy endures, largely due to the discovery of his nearly intact tomb in 1922, which continues to captivate the world and provide invaluable insights into ancient Egyptian culture and history. Upon ascending to the throne, Tutankhamun, originally named Tutankhaten, faced the challenging task of restoring stability and unity to a kingdom that had been deeply divided by Akhenaten's religious and political upheavals. Under the guidance of his advisors, particularly the powerful vizier A and the general Horemheb, the young pharaoh set about reversing many of the controversial reforms instituted by his predecessor. One of Tutankhamun's first acts as pharaoh was to change his name from Tutankhaten, which meant living image of Aten, to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Amun, signaling his commitment to restoring the traditional religion. He reopened the temples dedicated to the old gods, reinstated the priesthoods, and returned the religious center to Thebes. In addition to these religious reforms, Tutankhamun undertook numerous building projects to repair the damage inflicted upon Egypt's sacred monuments during Akhenaten's reign. He commissioned new temples, statues, and shrines, many of which were inscribed with his name and those of his advisors, as a means of legitimizing his rule and re-establishing Egypt's religious and cultural heritage. Tutankhamun's reign also saw a return to a more traditional style of art, as the naturalistic Amarna style gradually gave way to the idealized and formal artistic conventions of earlier periods. This is evident in the exquisite treasures discovered within Tutankhamun's tomb, including the iconic gold burial mask, which showcases the skill and craftsmanship of ancient Egyptian artisans. The Boy King's reign came to an abrupt end in 1323 BC when he died at the age of 18 or 19. The precise cause of his death remains a subject of debate among scholars, with various theories ranging from an infection following a broken leg to more nefarious causes, such as assassination. Tutankhamun was buried in a relatively modest tomb in the Valley of the Kings, which was quickly sealed and eventually forgotten. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter and his patron, Lord Carnarvon, was a watershed moment in the field of Egyptology. The tomb's nearly intact contents, including the pharaoh's mummy and an astonishing array of treasures, provided unprecedented insights into the life and burial practices of the new kingdom. The discovery captured the world's imagination and fueled a global fascination with ancient Egypt that endures to this day. While Tutankhamun's reign was relatively short and overshadowed by the upheavals of Akhenaten's era, his legacy as the Boy King endures, thanks in large part to the remarkable discovery of his tomb. His reign marked a return to tradition and stability in ancient Egypt, and his story continues to captivate the world, offering a unique window into the lives of the pharaohs and the rich cultural heritage of this ancient civilization. Chapter 9. The Female Pharaoh Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut, 1473–1458 BC, was one of ancient Egypt's most remarkable and influential pharaohs, defying traditional gender roles to rule as a female king during the 18th dynasty. Her reign, which lasted over 2 decades, was marked by peace, prosperity, and an extensive building program that resulted in some of ancient Egypt's most iconic architectural achievements. Despite attempts to erase her legacy, Hatshepsut's story endures as a testament to the strength and determination of one of history's most extraordinary female rulers. Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose, I and Queen Othmose, and as such, she was of royal blood. When her father died, her half-brother Thutmose, I, the son of a lesser wife, ascended to the throne and married Hatshepsut to secure his position. Thutmose, I's reign was relatively brief, and upon his death, his son by a concubine. Thutmose I was designated as his heir. However, Thutmose I was still a young child, and Hatshepsut, as the dowager queen, assumed the role of regent on his behalf. After a few years as regent, Hatshepsut declared herself pharaoh, adopting the full royal titulary and presenting herself as a male king, complete with a false beard and traditional kingly attire. This move was highly unconventional, as women were not typically allowed to rule as pharaohs. However, Hatshepsut was able to secure the support of key religious and political figures, including the high priest of Amun, Hapusaneb, and the influential courtier Senenmut, who likely played a crucial role in helping her consolidate power. Hatshepsut's reign was characterized by peace, diplomacy, and trade, which helped to usher in a period of prosperity for ancient Egypt. One of her most famous accomplishments was the expedition she sponsored to the land of Punt, a trading partner located along the Red Sea coast, likely in modern-day Somalia or Eritrea. This expedition returned with valuable goods, such as myrrh, frankincense, ebony, ivory, and exotic animals, which were used to adorn Hatshepsut's temples and palaces. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of Hatshepsut's reign is her ambitious building program, which included numerous temples, obelisks, and monuments throughout Egypt. Her crowning architectural achievement was her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, nestled against the cliffs near the Valley of the Kings. Designed by the architect Senenmut, this temple is a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian architecture, with its terraces, colonnades, and elegant proportions. It also features exquisite reliefs depicting the expedition to Punt and scenes of Hatshepsut's divine birth, emphasizing her legitimacy as ruler. After Hatshepsut's death, Thutmose I, her stepson and former co-regent, assumed sole rule of Egypt and embarked on a campaign to erase her memory. Many of her monuments were defaced or destroyed, and her name was often replaced with that of Thutmose I. Scholars believe that this was done to eliminate the precedent of a female ruler and restore the traditional male succession. Despite these efforts, archaeologists have been able to piece together Hatshepsut's remarkable story, revealing her as one of ancient Egypt's most accomplished and innovative pharaohs. Hatshepsut's reign stands as a testament to the power of determination and ingenuity in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. As a female pharaoh, she shattered traditional gender roles and demonstrated that a woman could effectively govern and lead a powerful and prosperous nation. Her reign saw extensive diplomatic efforts, trade, and monumental architectural achievements that have left an indelible mark on the landscape of ancient Egypt. The story of Hatshepsut serves as an inspiration to all who challenge societal expectations and strive for greatness. As one of history's most extraordinary female rulers, Hatshepsut continues to captivate the world, offering a fascinating glimpse into the complex and dynamic civilization of ancient Egypt. Her legacy, though once nearly erased, has been reclaimed and celebrated, ensuring that Hatshepsut's remarkable reign will be remembered for generations to come. Chapter 10. The Ramesside Period. The Ramesside period, from 1292 to 1069 BC, named after a series of pharaohs belonging to the 19th and 20th dynasties, marked the final era of power and prosperity in ancient Egypt's New Kingdom. This period was characterized by monumental building projects, military campaigns, and a thriving artistic culture, but it also witnessed the gradual decline of Egypt's imperial power as the nation faced internal strife and external threats. The 19th dynasty began with the reign of Ramesses II from 1292 to 1290 BC, who was succeeded by his son Seti I, 1290 to 1279 BC. Seti I worked to restore Egypt's borders and re-establish control over its empire, which had been weakened during the tumultuous Amarna period. He embarked on military campaigns in the Levant and Nubia, and he also initiated an extensive building program that included the construction of his mortuary temple at Abydos and the expansion of the Karnak temple complex. Arguably, the most famous pharaoh of the Ramesside period, and indeed one of the most renowned rulers in all of ancient Egypt, was Ramesses I from 1279 to 1213 BC, also known as Ramesses the Great. His long reign of nearly 66 years was marked by military campaigns, diplomacy, and monumental construction projects that left an indelible mark on the Egyptian landscape. Ramesses I sought to reassert Egypt's dominance in the region through military campaigns against the Hittites in the Battle of Kadesh and the conquest of Nubia. He also established diplomatic relations with neighboring powers, including a peace treaty with the Hittites that led to a period of relative stability in the region. Ramesses II's reign saw the construction of some of ancient Egypt's most iconic monuments, such as the Ramesseum, his mortuary temple on the west bank of Thebes, and the temples at Abu Simbel, which were carved into the rock face and dedicated to the gods Amun, Re-Horaki, and Ptah, as well as Leh. Ramesses II himself. These temples, with their colossal statues and grandiose scale, stand as a testament to the power and ambition of Ramesses the Great. The later years of the 19th dynasty and the entirety of the 20th dynasty, however, were marked by a decline in Egypt's fortunes. A series of weak pharaohs, coupled with economic instability, internal strife, and external threats, contributed to the weakening of Egypt's imperial power. The 20th dynasty, which included pharaohs such as Ramesses II from 1186 to 1155 BC, faced numerous challenges, including invasions from the Sea Peoples and the Libyans, as well as internal conflicts, such as the famous harem conspiracy against Ramesses II, which resulted in his assassination. Despite these setbacks, the Ramesside period was also a time of artistic innovation and cultural achievement. The art of this era, particularly during the reigns of Seti I and Ramesses I, displayed a refinement and attention to detail that has been celebrated by scholars and enthusiasts alike. The tombs of the artisans in Deir el Medina, who were responsible for creating the elaborate decorations found in royal tombs, provide a unique insight into the lives of ordinary ancient Egyptians and their devotion to their craft. The Ramesside period represents the final chapter of the New Kingdom, a time of remarkable achievements and the gradual decline of an empire that had once dominated the ancient world. While the challenges faced during this period foreshadowed the eventual collapse of the New Kingdom, the legacy of the Ramesside pharaohs endures through their monumental architecture, military conquests, and artistic accomplishments. As the sun set on this remarkable era, the memory of the Ramesside period would continue to captivate the world and serve as a testament to the grandeur and resilience of ancient Egypt. The 20th dynasty eventually gave way to the Third Intermediate Period, which saw the fragmentation of Egypt's political power and the rise of regional leaders, ushering in a period of decline and instability. Nevertheless, the Ramesside period remains a shining example of the incredible achievements that marked the zenith of ancient Egypt's New Kingdom. From the awe-inspiring temples and statues of Ramesses the Great to the exquisite artistry of the period's craftsmen, the Ramesside period stands as a powerful reminder of the heights that human civilization can reach, even in the face of adversity and decline. In the centuries that followed, Egypt would face further challenges and upheavals as foreign powers vied for control of this ancient and storied land. Yet, the memory of the Ramesside period, with its grand monuments, powerful pharaohs, and innovative artistic culture, endures as a source of inspiration and wonder for all who study and admire the extraordinary civilization of ancient Egypt. Chapter 11. The Decline of Ancient Egypt. The decline of ancient Egypt was a gradual process that unfolded over several centuries as the once mighty civilization faced a myriad of internal and external challenges. This downward spiral set the stage for the eventual fall of ancient Egypt, as foreign powers increasingly dominated the nation. The decline can be traced back to the end of the New Kingdom, when the stability and power of the Ramesside period began to wane. The Third Intermediate Period, 1069 to 664 BC, saw the fragmentation of Egypt's political power, as the centralized authority of the pharaohs weakened and regional leaders gained prominence. During this time, Egypt was divided, with the Tanite 21's dynasty ruling in the north and the Theban priesthood ruling in the south. This political fragmentation led to a decline in Egypt's economy and its ability to defend its borders from foreign threats. As the centuries passed, Egypt faced invasions from various foreign powers, such as the Nubians, Assyrians, and Persians. The Nubian 25th dynasty, 747 to 656 BC, briefly unified Egypt, but this unity was short-lived, as the Assyrians conquered the nation in 671 BC. Egypt regained its independence under the 26th dynasty, 664–525 BC, also known as the Sate period. But this resurgence was temporary, as the Persian Empire conquered Egypt in 525 BC, marking the beginning of the First Persian period. During the late period, 664 to 332 BC, Egypt experienced a cultural revival, with a resurgence of art and architecture that echoed the grandeur of earlier eras. However, the nation remained under the control of foreign rulers, including the Persians and the Greeks, who established the Ptolemaic dynasty 305 to 30 BC following the conquests of Alexander the Great. The Ptolemaic rulers, although Greek in origin, adopted Egyptian customs and religion, and they continued to support the construction of temples and monuments. Nevertheless, the decline of ancient Egypt persisted as the Ptolemaic dynasty grew weaker and faced internal strife. The famous Cleopatra v. II 51 to 30 BC, the last Ptolemaic ruler, attempted to restore Egypt's power and autonomy through alliances with Rome, first with Julius Caesar and later with Mark Antony. However, her efforts ultimately failed, and following her defeat at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, Egypt was annexed by the Roman Empire, marking the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and setting the stage for the fall of ancient Egypt. The decline of ancient Egypt can be attributed to a complex interplay of factors, including political fragmentation, economic instability, cultural stagnation, and external threats. While the civilization experienced brief periods of resurgence, such as during the late period and the Ptolemaic dynasty, these moments of revival could not halt the inexorable march towards the fall of ancient Egypt. As the sands of time continued to shift, the once great civilization faced its twilight, paving the way for the final chapter in the story of ancient Egypt. Chapter 12. The Fall of Ancient Egypt. The fall of ancient Egypt was the culmination of centuries of decline, as the civilization that had once been a beacon of innovation, power, and culture gradually succumbed to the pressures of internal strife and external conquest. This final chapter in Egypt's story began with the annexation by the Roman Empire in 30 BC and continued as the nation was transformed into a province of various empires, losing its autonomy and unique cultural identity. After Cleopatra v. II's defeat at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, effectively marking the end of native Egyptian rule. The Roman emperors, such as Augustus and his successors, maintained control over Egypt's wealth and resources, exploiting the country's agricultural output and using its fertile Nile Valley to feed Rome's growing population. Roman rule also led to an increasing Hellenization of Egypt's culture, as Greek and Roman customs and languages took precedence over traditional Egyptian practices. Despite this cultural shift, the Roman period also saw the continuation of some traditional Egyptian religious practices, particularly the cult of Isis, which spread throughout the Roman Empire. However, the rise of Christianity in the 4th century AD brought about a decline in the worship of traditional Egyptian gods. In 391 AD, Emperor Theodosius I declared Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire and ordered the closure of pagan temples, leading to the gradual abandonment of Egypt's ancient religious traditions. The fall of ancient Egypt continued as the Roman Empire itself began to decline. In the 5th century AD, as the Western Roman Empire crumbled, Egypt became part of the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine rulers continued the process of Christianization, converting more temples into churches and further diminishing the influence of ancient Egyptian culture. In 639, Arab Muslim forces, led by the general Amr ibn al-As, invaded Egypt, marking the beginning of the Islamic conquest. After a series of battles, the Byzantine forces were defeated, and Egypt was incorporated into the expanding Islamic Caliphate. With the spread of Islam, Arabic replaced both Greek and the ancient Egyptian language as the primary spoken and written language in Egypt, further eroding the vestiges of the once great civilization. Throughout the subsequent centuries, Egypt was ruled by a succession of Islamic dynasties and foreign powers, including the Fatimids, Ayyubids, Mamluks, and the Ottoman Empire. While these rulers left their mark on Egypt's culture, architecture, and society, the ancient Egyptian civilization that had endured for millennia had effectively come to an end. The fall of ancient Egypt was a slow and complex process that unfolded over the course of many centuries. This once mighty civilization, which had dazzled the world with its monumental architecture, powerful pharaohs, and rich cultural heritage, ultimately succumbed to the pressures of internal strife, cultural transformation, and external conquest. However, the memory of ancient Egypt has not been forgotten, and its incredible achievements continue to inspire and captivate the world, ensuring that its legacy will endure for generations to come.